Je m'appelle Daniel Bxl1, je suis un fonctionnaire du département de la protection civile italien. En fait, je suis détaché ici auprès de la mission italienne auprès de l'Union européenne, donc de la représentance italienne auprès de l'Union européenne. Et je suis attaché de protection civile, donc je m'occupe de tous les dossiers concernant la protection civile, la gestion des crises, la gestion des catastrophes, la clause de solidarité et tout ça. Je veux bien souligner que je ne suis pas un fonctionnaire de la Commission européenne, alors que vous attendiez un fonctionnaire de la Commission européenne. Donc, je remplace ce monsieur-là, qui est M. Wacht. C'est un collègue avec qui on a travaillé beaucoup, parce qu'en fait, l'Italie est un pays qui a malheureusement beaucoup de catastrophes naturelles, et donc on a dû travailler sur ce fonds qui est un fonds pour les désastres naturels, et voilà, donc il m'a demandé de remplacer. Donc si j'entends bien le sujet de votre travail des simulations, vous êtes intéressé plutôt à une description générale de comment les fonds marchent, et après peut-être je vais laisser un peu de quelques minutes pour des questions si vous en avez. Et je vais faire, si ça vous dérange pas, cette présentation en anglais, et comme la présentation en anglais. Et voilà, et je vais aller assez vite comme ça, parce que je suis désolé, mais vers 6h30 je dois partir, donc je vais essayer de faire ça assez vite, comme ça on a encore du temps pour les débats. Bonjour, venez. J'étais juste en train de dire que je devais partir à 6h30, donc on commence, et dès que vous arrivez, il n'y a pas de problème. Et je vais faire ça vite, comme ça, après, s'il y a des questions, on a le temps. Voilà. Alors, here we have the starting points for that is to say, the main elements that when you are dealing with this file, you have to know. Of course, you have the council regulation. Well, the legal basis, as you know, is the legal basis for issuing the act. So, but that's important from a legal point of view, but not so much for you, I think. The council regulation, probably you know this. Probably the person who is actually working with this file. You are, so you probably know the regulation. You have seen it. Let's see. There you go. That's the regulation. I don't know if you can clearly see, but okay. Then you have time. You have time to study it and to see it in details. Then this second piece of legislation, it's not actually legislation, is an annual report of the Commission on the use of the Solidarity Fund. They do it every year. So every year, at the end of the year, they issue this report, and they explain how this fund was used, and how many countries have requested the assistance of this fund. But this particular year, 2002-2003, is very important, because this is the only act, the only piece of paper that explains you, gives you an explanation of what the regulation actually means. Because there are, as we will see later, many elements in the regulation that are a bit ambiguous or unclear. So that's the only piece of document where you can find some preliminary explanations of what the regulation actually means. Because there are no other implementing acts for this regulation. Then you have the summary guidelines. This is only a very practical tool for the countries that do apply for this fund. And in the member states, we can look at those guidelines and write the application, draft the application the way the Commission wants us to draft it. Normally, I divide the regulation into four parts: the application phase, the accession phase, the implementing phase, and the accounting phase. This is not so important for your purpose, because I think what you are more interested in is to understand what are the criticalities of this regulation. Because I think you have to go through a debate and understand what will be the positions of the member states, the different actors, institutional actors, Commission, Council, and the Parliament. But it's good to know that basically in the regulation you have the main indications of what the fund look like. I mean, how the fund can be requested, how can you access the fund as member state, and how you have to account what you did with the money you received from the Commission. As you know, this fund is open not only to member states but also to countries that are in the process of acceding to the EU, and it's mainly mobilized when a major natural disaster occurs, and this disaster needs to have serious repercussions on living conditions, natural environment, and the economy in one or more regions or one or more countries. This word mainly is particularly important because it says that the fund can be mobilized for natural disasters mainly. That is to say that in the ordinary way, it's for natural disasters that have big impact in the member state. But there are several exceptions, as we will see. When we say that the fund can apply to major disasters, it means disasters resulting in at least one of the member states concerned in damage that are estimated over 3 billion in 2002 prices. What does it mean? It means that back then, in 2002, it was 3 billion, but today it's more than that, because that we considered the fund. So only for the big member states like Germany, Spain, France, big in terms of population, of course, Italy, you have 3.6 billion as the threshold. So if you estimate that the fund, you estimate that the damages caused by natural disaster go above that threshold, then you can apply for the fund. If it doesn't go, then you only look at the exceptions. For example, let's see for Belgium. Belgium is 2,043 million. So that's the threshold for Belgium. Of course, the smallest the country, the less is the threshold, because for the smallest countries the threshold is 0.6% of the GNI, gross national income. So it's easy to understand that for smallest countries the threshold is much lower. Okay, then I was explaining that the word mainly is quite important, because then you have the exceptions. So when the Solidarity Fund was created in 2002, it was created after the big floods in Central Europe. So I don't know if you remember this, was basically a situation very similar to what happened during this recent month. But the events, the natural events, were very extreme, and the damages were uncountable. So on that occasion, the member states decided to have a procedure in place to intervene in support of the member states when such big natural disasters happen. But nevertheless, the regulation has foreseen the possibility of of mobilizing this fund for two exceptional cases. One is the neighboring country case. So if there is a country that neighbors another country that is affected by exceptional natural disaster, also the country that neighbors that one can apply for the fund. Of course, if damages occur in that country. That's quite rare, although. But it can happen. And the other most important case is the regional case. So under exceptional circumstances, when the quantitative criteria are not met, the quantitative criteria are the ones that I've shown you before, this threshold that I indicated before, then a region could also benefit from assistance from the fund. But in this case, there are several conditionalities that apply that are quite strict. These are additional criteria that sometimes are called qualitative criteria, and are indicated in Article 2, Paragraph 2, last sub-paragraph of the regulation. So you can find those on the regulation. And it's one is that the major part of population in the region is affected, then that the serious and lasting repercussions on living condition and economic stability of the region is affected, and then it says the regulation that there is a particular attention for remote and isolated regions. What does this mean? Basically, the regulation. When I say that the regulation is quite ambiguous, I mean that these two sentences that are written exactly like that in the regulation can mean many things. So, for example, what is the major part of population in the region affected? 50%, 50% plus 1. And how do you indicate a region? In Italy, a region is a specific administrative division of the state. In Germany, they call it Länder. In Belgium, they call it something else. So those sort of interpretations of the regulation are coped with in this report that I told you at the beginning. And actually, as a region, with the regulation doesn't mean like an administrative region. It doesn't indicate an administrative region. It means like any area that is affected by a disaster and can be basically described by the member state itself in the application. This is very important because basically a region, and I will try to show it to you later on, can be anything, as it can cross different administrative regions, for example. Then the second point, serious and lasting repercussion on living condition and economic stability of the region. That's not very easy to assess what is serious? What is long repercussion? 1 year, 3 years, 10 years? These are the problems that and the challenges that were faced throughout the application of the regulation in the following years. And those are the points that the new proposal that was issued in 2005 tried to address. But as you know, this proposal didn't go through because of the opposition of the member states. So we still have the old regulation and with the same problems. And nowadays it's still very hard, in particular for those cases, so the exceptions, the regional cases, to demonstrate from a member state perspective that a particular region has been seriously affected, that has had long repercussions on his economy. Then there is another element that you should pay attention to. It's that for this specific case, for this exception, only 7.5% of the Solidarity Fund budget is available every year. So it's a small part of the total budget, which is 1 billion per year. It also has to be pointed out that this budget is not like a separate budget line in the overall EU budget. It's so in order to finance the Solidarity Fund, which is financed only if a disaster happens, the money are drawn by different budget lines in the European Union budget. So they look at the leftovers in the different budget lines, and then they can take the money from there. This is why each time the Solidarity Fund is granted to a member state, the Commission has to find the money. And in order to find the money, they have to amend the budget. And this amending budget procedure is quite complicated because it involves all the institutions. Because there is the Commission proposal, and then the Council and the Parliament. It's a budgetary procedure, and all the institutions take part to it, and it takes a long time. And this is another criticality of this fund, because this fund was created to face disasters immediately after the disaster. But in reality, it takes up to 9 months, 1 year to get the money. So you understand that this is another criticality, and this is something that this proposal you are going to discuss try to face as well. Okay, let's see if there is something else, because we are running short of time. Well, once you receive the fund, you can use it only as a member state for these 4 interventions. So the money that the Commission grants to the member states goes either into restoration to working order of essential infrastructure, rescue operation, so search and rescue, temporary accommodation, sheltering of the people, tented camps, and so on and so forth, and securing, preventing infrastructure and cultural heritage. So, for example, propping churches, monuments, and cleaning up the disaster area. This is also specified in the regulation. Another criticality which was addressed also in the 2005 proposal, is that you have a very short period of time to apply for this fund. So you have only 10 weeks from the disaster. It's quite challenging if you have to compile such an amount of data in such a short time in a disaster area. So, for example, in Latvia, when we had the earthquake in 2009, we had the problem that all the institutions, the administrative institutions, collapsed, or people in the local administration had lost relatives, had lost belongings, and so we had basically to as national sea collection administration step in and do all the data collection, help them out in collecting the right data, so that we could present within 10 weeks, which is 2 months and a half. Right? It's not a long time. This amount of data to the Commission. So in the proposal of 2005, one of the things that was one of the issues that was addressed was that the Solidarity Fund cannot cope with slow onset disasters. So the disasters that slowly develop. So, for example, drought or similar events that they don't show up right away, like a tsunami or an earthquake or a storm. For example, coastal erosion, and so they try to address this issue as well in that proposal. So those are the main criticalities, I would say. I've already spoken about this definition of the affected area. What is the major part of the population? It was decided that basically you have to demonstrate when you apply for the Solidarity Fund as a region, for the regional case, you have to demonstrate that at least 50% plus one of the total population of that affected region it was somehow damaged by the disaster, either in their belongings or also, for example, because some public services were interrupted, so they didn't. They were not able anymore to enjoy these public services. For example, health services, public transportation, because the roads were destroyed, or because the hospitals were destroyed, and so on and so forth. Or kids couldn't go to school. So if you have to demonstrate that the major part of the population was affected. And of course, how you do that? You draft a report, you bring facts and stuff. Here is a quick overview of all the countries that applied for the Solidarity Fund throughout the years. Those are only the successful applications, because there are many more that were not successful, particularly for the regional case, because of the reasons that I told you, that it's very hard to demonstrate some of those criteria because they are too vague. Okay, so these are some of the recent Italian cases. We also had the earthquake in 2011 in Emilia-Romagna, for which we applied, and we were granted the Solidarity Fund. And nowadays, probably Germany will and other Central European states will apply for this. So these are some of the criticalities we found during the application procedure in Abruzzo. Okay, just one last thing, then I'm done. Concerning the Veneto floods case, so it's a regional case. Just to show you what I mean for region. what is the region affected? This is the whole region of Veneto. For the ones who don't know, Italy, it's the basically far east region where Venice is located. Venice is located right there. And this area, the blue area, is the area that basically those are all the municipalities that were affected by the flooding. But they still had the problem to identify within those municipalities the affected area for applying to the fund. And what they did is that where is it? They indicated as affected area basically the area along the river that was extremely affected by the disaster. So, in order to demonstrate that 50% of the population in that area was affected, they only choose the very affected area. So some of the municipalities that were also affected, they were left out. Why? Because they couldn't match with the 50% of the population criteria. So maybe in some areas only 20% of the population was affected. Some other area 30% of the population was affected. So you see that this criteria of the regional case disaster is quite complex, and sometimes the member state really have to look into the details of the event to find a way to respect the criteria. With this, I'm done. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer. Okay. Si tu veux en français, hein, je peux prendre aussi les questions en français. Je peux répondre.
En français. En fait, je me demandais si c'était pas mieux en fait de mieux adapter le fonds en laissant plus de place justement aux cas régionaux et déjà commencer à élargir le seuil de 7,5% d'allocation maximum du fonds, parce que quand on regarde justement le tableau que vous avez montré vers la fin, il y a quand même beaucoup de cas régionaux par rapport aux cas nationaux. Bon, les cas de pays voisins, ça, ils sont très minimes par rapport au reste, mais je trouve que les deux se valent assez bien. Donc je ne sais pas si peut-être il faudrait aussi voir ce côté-là élargir.
Oui, en fait, disons que même si le fonds a été créé pour faire face à des désastres exceptionnels, donc des catastrophes exceptionnelles, des catastrophes majeures, comme elles sont définies par les règlements. En fait, la plupart des cas sont des cas régionaux. Mais en même temps, les cas régionaux sont l'exceptionnalité. Donc, les règlements n'ont pas été faits pour ces cas-là. Donc, il faut trouver toujours le juste équilibre entre la disponibilité financière de la Commission et l'espoir des citoyens européens d'une certaine région qui est affectée par une catastrophe, de se voir assistés par l'Union européenne elle-même. Donc, et c'est pas facile parce que en fait, les États membres, en particulier les États membres qui sont pas forcément très affectés par les catastrophes, n'ont pas beaucoup envie de renforcer ces fonds. Parce qu'ils disent, bon, on contribue mais enfin, on ne l'utilise pas.
C'est qui les États membres qui ne sont pas arrivés à celle de la définition d'une catastrophe?
Ouais, c'est normalement oui, mais il y a une division très nette au niveau européen parmi les États membres qui sont plus exposés à la catastrophe naturelle, et notamment les pays de la Méditerranée, où il y a énormément de risques au niveau des tremblements de terre, des volcans, mais aussi des désastres hydrogéologiques, tout ça. Et disons la partie la partie nord de l'Europe où il y a très peu de risques.
Dans les critères, vous avez mentionné des désastres naturels. Il y avait aussi des désastres économiques. Mais il y a des exemples de ça, parce que
oui.
La Grèce,
c'est pas des désastres. Non, c'est pas ça.
C'est dans les critères, donc c'est aussi flou.
Non, alors, c'est pas des désastres économiques, c'est des désastres anthropiques. Donc, des désastres humains, c'est-à-dire des désastres provoqués par l'homme. Hein? C'est comme je sais pas si vous vous rappelez les cas de la Prestige. C'était près des côtes de l'Espagne, la Galicia. C'était une pétrolière qui a débarqué beaucoup de pétrole et en fait tout ça est arrivé sur la côte et a ruiné toute la côte et les pêcheurs c'est une région très pêcheur et ils n'ont pu pas pêcher pendant longtemps en ruinant toute l'économie de cette région. Et donc là, c'est les seuls cas où les fonds de solidarité a été donné pour un désastre humain provoqué par l'homme. Pourquoi? Parce que l'idée, c'est de responsabiliser dans ce cas-là, la compagnie pétrolière, les industries, parce que c'est eux qui doivent payer. C'est the polluter pays principle. C'est dans la législation européenne sur l'environnement et c'est donc toute cette construction dont on parle aujourd'hui ne doit pas toucher ce principe qui c'est très valable comme on le voit.
Mais ce type de cas de catastrophe qui n'est pas naturel, il n'est pas développé dans l'argumentation de solidarité?
Non, mais n'est pas développé parce que, comme je vous disais, c'est les seuls cas où il y a eu où les fonds ont été donnés pour une catastrophe humaine, d'origine humaine, c'est celui de la Prestige. Justement pour ce principe de polluter pays principle.
Est-ce que ce serait possible, est-ce que ce serait envisageable d'intégrer plus noir sur blanc le principe de pollueur-payeur dans la législation?
Non, mais ça, ces principes existent déjà. C'est dans la législation de l'environnement. Mais les faits, c'est si... En fait, dans la proposition du 2005, il y avait cette idée d'élargir à certains types de désastres provoqués par l'homme la possibilité, mais elle n'a pas abouti justement parce que les États membres sont très concernés par le fait que les industries, les compagnies de vessels, les compagnies de navigation doivent eux-mêmes être responsables de ça. On peut pas donner à l'Union européenne la responsabilité de payer quelque chose pour la manque de responsabilité des privats, des compagnies privées, voilà.
Je suis tout à fait d'accord avec ce que vous dites. Néanmoins, il y a un problème souvent, c'est que lorsqu'il s'agit de poursuivre en justice une compagnie pétrolière, par exemple Total, dans le cas de l'Epica, qui est une autre marée noire, ça prend des années et des années. Il y a eu un avancement dans le procès Total qui a eu lieu en 2013, alors que c'est, je crois, 99. Il faut attendre plus de 15 ans. Qu'est-ce qui empêcherait l'Union européenne d'intervenir, mais non pas pour enlever le principe de pollueur-payeur, mais pour avancer l'argent, quitte après, plus tard, à se faire rembourser justement en application de ce principe pollueur-payeur. Est-ce que ce serait une possibilité?
En principe, je crois que oui. Mais en fait, c'est une question que vous devez poser en fait aux fonctionnaires de la Commission européenne. Nous, de ma côté, je dirais que oui, ce serait possible, mais il faut se demander si les États membres sont prêts à faire ça. Parce que il faut toujours se rappeler que l'argent de l'Union européenne, c'est l'argent des États membres. Et donc, comme on est dans un moment de crise économique très fort et qui est très évident dans les États membres, alors les États membres ne sont pas prêts à investir beaucoup d'argent sur les budgets communautaires. Et ça, on l'a vu, si vous avez suivi peut-être les débats sur les budgets communautaires, je veux dire, de l'Union européenne cette année, il y a eu une résistance justement du Parlement européen parce que c'était la première fois que dans les budgets de l'Union européenne, on investissait moins qu'avant. Donc voilà, c'est un peu ça les problèmes dont vous devrez parler dans votre débat. Et voilà. Je suis désolé de devoir partir, mais j'espère que ça vous a donné quelques indications et des idées pour votre débat.